Michael.
Adhrucia.
You've worked with Michael Jackson, Lady Gaga, Whitney Houston, just to name a few. As a music director, when you're working with a new personality, how do you take some of their personal stories and place it within the work that you're shaping?
How I work with each artist is how they are as people. So I don't go in with any preconceived notions of how I should work with them. I just see how they are as human beings and what they task me with and what they want. And then I just execute from there. But the main thing that I do with all my artists is just treat them as human beings. I know you, I know who you are. But at the end of the day, you're still a human being. And then I do my job. I'm there to do a job, and so I do it, and so I'm not afraid to speak to them on a human level, and most artists appreciate that.
Today we welcome to our studio world-renowned music director, composer, and keyboardist Michael Bearden. In his expansive career, Michael has worked with over 500 artists and curated shows, including serving as a music director for high-profile events like the Emmy Awards and the Kennedy Center Galas. In our conversation today, we explain what music direction is and explore Michael's journey in mastering musical direction across genres, his experience working with legendary artists, and discuss the impact music has as a powerful tool in storytelling for social change and global unity. Welcome to the studio, Michael Bearden. Let me just start with this question, Michael.
Yes.
And I know you've been asked this before in interviews, but
Okay.
I think for a new audience, I think it's so important to tell people what music direction is.
Great question, because I get that question all the time. What is
Sure.
a music director? They have no idea what that is. Well, I'll say I'm the MD. They say, what is that? And I'll say music director.
The
They'll say-
MD.
They'll say, what is that? So a musical director, it is basically what it sounds like. We direct the music. So if you're a director of a film, let's say, and Spike Lee, I'm just choosing any director. And,
Go on, Spike Lee.
He's in charge of everything that happens with the film. So, the actors, he has to direct them and tell them what to do. He doesn't tell them how to act, because they do that. But he gives them the parameters and the shape of what he wants, and then the actors do that. It's the same with music. Musicians, like I can play all the instruments, but I wouldn't go sit on the drums and tell the drummer, this is what I want you to play.
Sure.
I just give them the direction of what the artist wants and what the music is and what we're trying to create for the moment. If it's, we're going to do a special thing for the Grammys, or we're doing a special thing for the Oscars, or whatever it is. I don't want it to sound the same way we do when we're doing, iHeartRadio.
You're shaping entire musical experience.
Shaping the entire musical experience. Hopefully doing something new for the artist so they feel energized and new and able to give the audience something different. And then we give the audience a unique experience that they weren't ready for.
So when you guys sit in a concert hall or a stadium, or you're watching a live show and you get those great ebbs and flows where you're just being taken into the story and drop back down, that is Michael's beautiful work.
Yes, thank you. And so that it's funny you mentioned that. When I was working with MJ, and we were trying to create a set list.
MJ's Michael Jackson, right?
MJ is Michael Jackson, and he was showing me how he likes to do it, which was he likened it to a roller coaster ride. And so we would start, and he would do the clicks. He said, "So when we start, how are we gonna take the audience up?" And he would go click, 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 and then when we get to that top, then he would say, how fast do we want to go down? Do we want to go right into a loop? Do we want to go in the curve? It was a whole thing. And then where do we slow down? And then when we take them back up and go down. So it was a great visual for me. It was a great way to look at how to do the ebbs and flow for the audience. And like you just said, to go up and down.
I completely attack both story building and music building that same exact way.
Yes.
It's, I think, so important. I'm a big fan personally, which not everyone loves this taste, but I love to start people in the middle. I love when you just feel like you're part of a scene, and then you're trying to figure out, how did I get here?
Absolutely.
How did I get here?
That's right.
My favorite type of story to watch, music to listen to. Like I love when a concert just starts with like this explosion. You're like, okay, we're here. We're doing this now.
That's so.
We're doing this now.
You know, it's exactly. We're here. Oh my God! Exactly. You know, it's funny. I take that approach. So it depends on the artist and it depends on the show or the concert or whatever. So Gaga's last big tour we did in 22, her World Stadium tour, that's how we approached it. Her choreographer and I, Richie Jackson, who's brilliant.
Love Richie. Shout out Richie. We love you. We love you.
We'll sit down and have dinner or lunch or something and just figure out how to do it. And sometimes it takes us a while per her vision. And then that last tour, we just decided, let's just hit them right away with like all the big hits. So we started with Bad Romance, and, you know, Poker. And we went straight in. So that's that part of that, oh, we're doing this. We're doing this. Some of those songs we would usually wait till later or the end, even the end to do, but we just wanted to start.
Sure.
Right?
So I grew up and first was learning on stage and music. Like that is my foundation for everything that I storytell from. Because as a young kid, I was a stage kid. I was in music. I was studying piano, violin, voice, all the things. And for me, it informed, and it was a big part of our household. It's the way my parents shared their cultures. They're both South Asian, Indian, how they shared their cultures with me, how they shared other cultures with me. And so because it was such a big learning tool for me, it informed the way I saw the world. For the rest of my life, like I literally see moments of my everyday as music videos, as bits of, like they're all scored, they're all scenes from movies. I can't stop it. When someone talks to me and tells me a story, I'm like seeing the whole visual process. You grew up in the South Side of Chicago and you've talked about some of your early influences. You talked about your father and his influence. How did growing up in that Midwest space, how did that inform your storytelling ability?
Wow. So as far as I can remember, and I can remember very far back in my life, it freaks my parents out sometimes because they go, you were like 3, how do you remember that? And I have no idea how I remember that. But as far as I can remember back, the world for me was all music. So everything sounded like music. Like, so the birds sounded like music, car horns. So even like just playing that chord, I see colors. Like, so for this, like a D minor chord, there's like this like blue, like this bluish thing over here. Like, so when I was a boy, it was just really, it was weird because I would express it because I thought everybody
saw it that way,
but they didn't. Like, you know, my brothers would be like, what are you talking about? We don't hear that, or we don't see that. So then I would just kind of not say it because I don't know, I felt like I was a weird kid or something.
Or a genius kid.
I never thought that, but
I think that.
No, but so it informed my storytelling because everything was, even today, it's everything, even just driving over here. Everything is rhythm. People walk in a beat. It's raining outside, so the windshield wipers are on beat. Like, it's like everything I look at, the way I look at it is music. And so you mentioned my dad. My dad's an artist, a painter, a photographer, all that. You know, he's a professor. But so we had all of that in the house. So it was just always visual stimulation, looking at art. Everything was artistic. Everything was musical.
But you feel you were born that way.
I feel like I was born that way. Yeah, so I have never done anything else.
For those of you listening, synesthesia is actually it's a condition, quote unquote. Conditions are superpowers, by the way, guys, that I just learned about recently. Where how Michael described it. When he hears music, he sees colors, he sees visuals. And wow, what a cool superpower to have, in my opinion.
Yeah, the colors have gotten a little dimmer as I've gotten older. When I was young, they were really vibrant, but they're still there. They're still there, and it's more turned into a feeling now. Like I've felt like certain things feel that's very vanilla. That's a little darker. Like there's you know, everything is energy and frequency and vibration. So,
do you think the sensory experience reduced as you got older because of the information that society has overloaded with you, or because your actual senses have changed over the years?
My actual senses have changed because now the music part is less a mystery, if that makes sense, because I'm so familiar with it. Like I can hear where certain composers are going to go with their music, and it's like, oh, it's going to go to this chord, and then it goes like. So the more you get adept at what you do and your talent, the less mysterious it is. So
In what way do those early influences, like your father and being in Southside Chicago, you talked about early mentors like Ramsey Lewis and Herbie Hancock.
wow, you guys do your homework here.
How do they still? I love you, Michael. It's not homework. This is the joy of knowing my friend.
Oh, yes.
This is the joy
Yes,
of knowing
love you
my
back.
friend.
Love you back.
But how did those early influences still shape your music that you make today? Are there moments where you just feel drawn back almost to those first childhood shaping moments and teenage and young adult?
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, Ramsey Lewis passed away now. Was
Rest
one
in
of my
peace.
earliest mentors when I was in high school, I think.
High school.
Well, his son used to go to my high school. A lot of famous parents' kids went to this particular high school. Michelle Robinson went there, who is now Michelle Obama, who's a dear friend of mine still to this day.
Wow.
So all these Jesse Jackson's kids, like all these kids went there. And so Ramsey's sons went there, and we used to have a band together. So I would go to Ramsey's house when I was a young
so cool.
person. And I didn't know one day you weren't supposed to play his piano. So I was waiting for his son, Kelly. And I just started playing the piano, and he comes down, and who's playing my piano? Like, that was the rule in the house, don't touch his piano. And then he saw me, and then he just was kind of like showing me things. It was a great thing. So what it showed me back then was, one, that I did actually have some talent and I could do this for a living, but two, it showed me that it was possible.
Yeah.
Like to see Ramsey and to see Herbie and to see Quincy, all these people are from Chicago.
Yeah.
Quincy Jones. I met Quincy Jones much later in my career, but still early in my career, where he really shaped. Quincy shapes everybody's career, but the way, like, he's pretty much the blueprint for what I do, or what I've done in my career, because I saw him do it. And then when I started working with him on various things, especially live things, he would just show me certain things and tell me what to do. And it still shapes me. I still hear the lessons. I still, I think when I was with all of these people, they just show me, and Herbie used to say to me, well, always remember you're a human being first. You just happen to play musician. You're a citizen of the world. He would say these type of things to me.
I say I'm a citizen of the world.
Citizen of the world.
Me and Herbie would have got along.
Yes.
I love how you talk about it showed you that it was possible because, and I've talked about in another episode, I believe, like for me, and you also spoke at the very beginning about how your 5-year-old self like wanted to be Michael Jackson's friend. I used to have full conversations with the posters on my wall because I knew they were going to be my friends.
That's
and
right.
then I forgot about them for a good 20 years when the world crept in and started telling me I couldn't do things. But if I think back, my childhood self knew exactly, because I saw that possibility, what I was going to be. I love that you two just saw this possibility by seeing these people in front of you who were doing it.
Yes.
Was it ever a question that you were going to become a storyteller?
No.
Was it ever a question you were going to become a musician?
No. It was always the intention. It was always the desire. It was always the want. And even if I was trying to pull back from it, I would get pulled towards it in the most crazy ways anyway.
Yeah,
so
that happened to me. I get that.
Yeah. So I didn't think this is all I ever wanted to do. And I didn't think it was not possible. This is all I was going to do. So and once you set your mind with intention, and then you start doing the work. And the thing about the work was I actually loved the work. So even when I was a boy, and we got a piano, and I started learning how to play, and then it would be the only thing that I would want to do on the weekends. And my mom was like, why don't you go outside like regular kids? And I'm like, I'm not a regular kid.
I had the same argument with my mom. I was like, I had to stay up to watch all award shows. And she would be like, it's way past your bedtime. And I was like, no, but I'm practicing.
That's right.
I'm practicing.
That's
I have
exactly
to. This is my homework. This is my real homework.
That's exactly right.
This episode was brought to you in partnership with Little Black Tux. Little Black Tux is my go-to when I need a timeless look. Whether I'm speaking on a film panel, walking a red carpet, or need a bold, sophisticated look for a photo shoot, Little Black Tux has me covered. Little Black Tux isn't just a clothing company, they're a company with a story, a strong why. And you know I love a good story. They're breaking boundaries and creating clothing that empowers women with versatile, upscale options. I love my Little Black Tux, and I know you will too. You had formal classical training.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that has informed the decisions that you make now that you're moving from smaller stages to bigger stages? And we're going to talk about going to college at Howard.
Okay.
But that early classical training, do you think that affected?
Yeah. So how I started, so they got the piano and they just wanted to see if I was serious and I would play. So my mom's best friend, who was like my second mother, called my godmother, she taught me what she knew from the church. And then as she was saying, well, I can't teach him anymore, then they started seeing that I was serious and they would start getting more formal.
Did you like the formal training? Because you were someone who learned by ear a lot.
I did. I like both, because what I was noticing was, I could play things, but I wanted to know why and what it was. So, of course you went to the, I can't remember. The Bach things and,
wow.
more.
I love how classic stays.
More classical thing. But so what started happening is I wanted to know the theory behind what I was playing. Why did it sound like that? And so it just started informing me across the board how certain things came together and how it was put together, and how then it started informing my composition as far as being a composer. It's like, how did they make that up? How did that song happen in the first place? So
I love that it was additive for you. I found learning classical. So another story for another podcast, but I had an auditory processing disorder when I was a kid that got fixed when I was older. And I actually found learning classical technique to be inhibiting to me personally, because I learned so much by ear, and because I wasn't able to process the music I was hearing in the same way when I was trying to also learn the notes. I don't know. It's just a me thing. It's not an everybody thing. But I always love to ask that question, because I think for some people and especially since you had bits of synesthesia like this, I think it's so interesting that you found a love of the structure.
Yeah, yes, that's a great way to put it. A love of the structure. I like to create in parameters. Like I used to like haiku a lot when I was a kid, because there was a certain structure that you had to create. You had these parameters of 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables, and you could only create in that structure. So I like the structure of it. Also, I found that learning proper technique helped me to express more. As opposed to less, because if you're doing it wrong, then you get frustrated if you can't get it out. But if you start to learn technique and fingering and certain things on the keyboard, I was able to. It's
a toolbox.
Yes, exactly.
It's a toolbox.
But you never lose the stuff that you learn by ear.
Yeah. That's true.
You never lose that.
That's true. Okay, so I did some research, and I know that something that we share in common is, for me, a scholarship was a big deal to go to college, and it informed. I actually Russian roulette my college applications, because I had been in musical theater training, and I had broken my knee when I was a freshman in high school, and so I wasn't sure if I could still do it. So I literally was like, okay, I'm going to apply journalism, film, music, business, all around, and I just let the scholarship determine my output, where I was going to end up, which ended me in business school. So that's a whole nother story. After I went to film school, I went to business school. But for you, it ended you at Howard university.
Yes.
And you've talked about how this shaped and how you excelled in that space. Tell us a little bit about your time at Howard and how that informed what was going to become the next stage of your career.
Yeah. So I met the band director when I was in high school. He was a friend of my band director. I guess they went to college together. And my band director, all of my band directors, I should say, even when I was in elementary school, high school, and college, really shaped my life. They were almost like surrogate fathers because you spend so much time with the band.
Yeah.
And then if they saw that you had any kind of talent and acumen and just, passion for it, they would show you other things. And so anyway, we did a spring concert once, and the band director from Howard was there, and he saw me and he heard me and all that. So he asked my parents, where's this young man going when he graduates? And we were like, I don't know. It's like, if we give him a scholarship to Howard, where he go to Howard? My mom was like, I guess he's going to Howard. So I got a scholarship to go there. But what it also informed me was when, because I was starting to rise and really learn how to play. And, so I was feeling good. And I really started getting into classical music. I started at American Conservatory in Music downtown. So I would go take the bus, 2 trains to go study on the weekends.
I love just like how in love with music you were.
Yes.
As even a young adult, just having that perseverance. That's right.
This is
just where
that's right.
I'm headed. This is what I'm doing. This is what's in my bones. I'll drive 2 train rides to get to.
That's right.
Ride 2 train rides.
Yeah, right. And
to drive the train.
And freezing cold in Chicago.
Freezing cold in Chicago.
That's right. And with my piano books in my hand.
I gotta tell you, when I go back to Ohio, I'm like, how did I do this?
Oh my gosh! Trust me,
it's so cold.
Yes.
Like, how did I persevere and do
I
this?
love you, Chicago. I can't do that anymore. Yes, exactly. So
all to get this education at Howard. You're in the train.
Yeah, and so what it informed me was when I got there were a lot of kids like me from all parts of the country. So I was just like, okay, I'm not the big fish anymore.
That's a moment, right?
That's a moment. That's where you either buckle or you try to.
Because they're all equally talented.
That's right.
And you realize that is the world stage. It's not so much that one person's more talented than the next. It's really drive. I tell people all the time, if you want to go into film, television, if you want to go into music, if you want to do this as a business, it is drive that sets you apart, not talent.
That's exactly right. That's what I found out at Howard. It was a guy, it was a drummer. I'll never forget his drive. This is where I learned to be a musician and working, and that everybody was talented, but how did you rise above that? It was the drive, as you say. And so he would always have his drums in the car. And I was just like, where you go? Yeah, after class, I got a gig. Like he would just be going and going. And he was like, yeah, I'll show you how to do it. And he didn't even know that I played piano at that point. I was playing drums in the marching band, which I played all during high school. And then I played in college as well. I was on the drum line, snare drummer. And I was playing piano in the practice room one day. He's like, you play piano? I was like, yeah. He's like, come be in my band. It's like, but his go-getiveness, if that's a word.
I love it. It's a word now. We just made it one.
His drive, it was just like, I was like, oh, this is how this is done. So I started doing the same thing. And so after class, I was in D.C., so congressmen's wives would have tea parties. I was like, I'll play. You have a piano in the corner. Yeah, for a half hour. We'll pay you for a half hour to just play cocktail music. And I would just do that, and I would be playing on the side somewhere. Or practicing my lessons. They wouldn't care. They didn't know the difference. And so they would just pay me. Like I was just started to hustle and learn from there.
I know that you moved to New York, right? And this is the start, if I'm correct, this is the start of your career where you relocated to New York and you started collaborating with Herbie Mann, Angela Bofill, and Whitney Houston.
I love this.
All these individuals. You say a line about New York, and I moved to New York right after college, or right after high school, and right after college. And my mother was just like, 9/11 had happened. And my mother was just like, are you still planning on going to New York? And you have this great thing that you said in an interview once where you said, I moved to New York because if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere.
That's right.
And when I heard you say it, I was like, that is literally same thing. It was something about pushing myself to, if I could go to the most competitive, most highly sought after industry city in the world, and I could make it, then I would never be scared. I would get rid of the fear of being scared of going up against anyone. Tell me about moving to New York, relocating, and how the music of New York and meeting and collaborating with Herbie and Angela and Whitney, how this stage changed Michael Bearden as a storyteller.
It's so funny you say the music of New York, because ever since I was a kid, so my parents and I think my aunt and uncle took us on a trip when we were young to New York, and we got on the boat, which is called the Circle Line, and we saw all of the Statue of Liberty and all the Twin Towers were up at that point, and all the things. And just walking in, I remember as a young boy walking in the village, the energy of it, my colors were going crazy because everything sounded like music, but I wouldn't say anything to my family. But the music was so vibrant and alive in my spirit. And even as a young boy, I was like, I want to be here. And then all of the television shows of the day were based in New York. And so I was like, I really want to be there. So after I graduated, and I was in a popular band in college, and we were doing quite well and had people come see us and standing, in lines.
What was the band called? Oh, come on. Okay. We'll let him go. We'll let him go this once.
But I didn't want to stay in the band because we were doing quite well, but they were comfortable with just like opening for the people that would come. And like, I wanted to play with the people. And it wasn't a diss, and it wasn't a thing, because the band was great and all the guys are great and obviously talented. But I just saw more for me. And so I didn't know a soul in New York. And I had a friend who was in the jazz band. I was in the A band at Howard, the recording jazz band. And he said, yeah, I know some people that are renting a room. I was like, I'll take it. I didn't even see it. I took everything, this is not long ago, I took everything, put it in a U-Haul, drove all the way up to New York. It was a 3-story walk up, no kitchen, but sharing a bathroom with a family that lived down the hall. Took all my stuff up myself because I got there late. Nobody was there to help me. So I took all my stuff because I didn't want to move to New York and have all my stuff stolen like right away.
I get that.
And so then I was just there in New York, and just the energy and the vibe, and I just started hitting the ground and just started going to all the places that you could play, signing up for jam sessions. There used to be one at the Blue Note after the artist played there. You would sign up. Sometimes you get called, sometimes you didn't. So I was just doing all of that type of thing just to try to make it in New York. And it was a struggle for a minute. So I would go back to DC because I always knew I could work there and make money. But by the time you drive and pay all the tolls and the gas and all that, it's just like you don't have much money left. So
yeah, trying to do it in New York, especially the first part of your career, is always. I went right after I graduated, or even before I graduated, and you're getting paid, $16 an hour or something less, and you're trying to pay New York rent prices.
New York rent
But what it really did for me was, again, just like that musicality and that real like go-gettedness that I hear in your music, and that's also in like the stories that I create. Like that's it's like this.
Yes.
What it is to, and you can feel that emotion in music. What it is to like almost have it and lose it. What it is to like try. Like that is all part, I think, of the storytelling journey, and adding this depth and this layer to what we put into the world.
That's right, because once again, we go back to drive. It wasn't about the talent. Everybody is talent. I mean, and then when I finally did get a gig, the place where I was living, they sold that building. So while I was out working on tour, I had to move to another part it was in Brooklyn. Then I had to move to another part of Brooklyn in Bushwick. So they had moved all my stuff there. So now I'm living with this family that owned it was a whole thing. And then I was down the street from a crack house. It was, so all this depth, all this layer, all these real life things But I was always determined, and I never wanted to not be in music. So I never had a job. So I never took a job, punching a clock or being in a cubicle or anything. It's, if you have to do it, you have to do it to survive. That's great. But I just never did it.
Can you walk us through your process a little bit? You were the final music director for the late Michael Jackson, rest in peace. And you've worked with Madonna, and you've been a longtime collaborator of Lady Gaga. Of course, you worked with Whitney Houston. How did you adapt musical language for each of these individuals to complement their vision? And what is that process like? So you go into a session, you're gonna do the musical direction for Lady Gaga's next show. You're sitting down with her. I mean, you now know Stephanie, you know Lady Gaga. So, but that very first time when you're getting to know someone and what that vision is, whether it's a big show, what is that process like for you?
So, wow, which one can I? There's so many. So for Gaga, let's say, who I've now been with for 12 years, she's an amazing artist. She's really a unicorn in my eyes. She can do so much. I can just go on and talk about her. She's a wonderful artist. But the first time I worked with her, the first time I met her, I actually was doing Bill Clinton's birthday party at the Hollywood Bowl. And so I was working with Stevie and there. Oh man, I forget the kid's name. We'll have to find that. And then, but Gaga was on the show, and so I stayed to watch her. And then I met her afterwards, and she was really sweet and really nice. But that was that. I didn't think I was going to work with her or anything like that. A first job I did with her was President Obama's second inauguration. And I got a call from her people, and then she got on the phone, and she's like, "I hear you the man." I was like, "Thank you." She's like, she got me with this. She said, "I have this song, it's called Born This Way." I was like, "Yes, I've heard it." Like, she said it so matter of factly, like, maybe you haven't.
This tiny.
Yeah, no,
song.
but it was great because it showed her humility to me. And then, but she said, this is how she got me. She said, "Yeah, can you make that sound presidential for me?"
Oh.
And I was like, wow, okay. What a challenge. Like right off, it was a challenge away. And I was like, well, what does that mean to you? And she says, well, what does that mean to you? I said, well, do you hear orchestra or anything? I was like, I can do that. And she says, let me hear what you come up with. So I came up with orchestra, and so when I was in the studio with strings, and then I got back in touch with her and I was playing it for her. She was like, "That's great. Can you put drums on it?" So I was like, okay. And I was like going around trying to find somebody at the studio real quick. And a friend of mine who was actually recording there, I was like, "Yo, man, can you put some drums on this?" So we did. And so then I flew to DC and I got the orchestra together. Tony Bennett was on the show, got the orchestra together for that. And she just came.
Every single show you do is just like this epic list of who's who of individuals.
I know, right? It's crazy.
What an honor to be able to create visions with you.
What an honor. What an honor. And then she just walked in, and all she really had to do was sit down and play. And she was so impressed by that. And so from there, we just, struck up a friendship, and here we are.
So it's really about getting to know the person's essence and like what they're... We do this a lot where it's really just about like sharing that vision and then sharing a mutual understanding and respect for whatever it is that you're trying to put together.
It starts with the mutual understanding and the respect part. So she respected me enough, without even knowing me, just on my reputation, that I could come up with something that would encapsulate her vision. And in the work in progress stage, I like to keep them. The great thing about Gaga is she's always hands on, so it's not really a lot of guesswork for me, because I know what she trusts me and Richie to do what we do for her. So she trusts that implicitly. She's always hands on, but then sometimes she just likes to take her hands off and just let us do what we do. And she's different, Jennifer Lopez, I was her music director. She's a different person. Like Jay is her work ethic is amazing.
Yeah.
And so she works really hard at what she does. She trusts you to do what you do. And so each artist is just different.
What key elements are you focusing on to create like a compelling narrative from end to end with the show? Especially because you have done shows from jazz to rock to classical, all across. Is there an element for you that is consistent no matter what type of show that you're sharing?
Great question. Once again, I'm going to go back to this word humanity. At the end of the day, why are you doing this? That's to touch somebody else.
Yeah.
To move. I always tell my artists, let's go move some souls.
Yeah.
That's what we do. That's the essence. You know, it's funny that we're talking about storytelling because this is how I like it to feel with music. I'll just come in and I'll go, once upon a time. And then when you say that, everybody's like,
yeah, exactly.
What's next? What's going on?
Exactly.
And then so my consistent thing is to tell the story from the beginning. Start with the once upon a time, and then just have all the page turners. So depending on how we build the show or what the segment is, it may even just be for some award show. I remember doing an MTV thing.
Are you building the narrative, or is the art? It's a
We're both.
collaboration.
It's a collaboration. So I remember doing. I did so many things with Madonna. I was her music director for 9 years or so.
9 years.
Yeah,
Those are some epic shows.
Yes. And so some of the Grammys or some, so she would come to me with her vision, and then we would figure out what to do musically. So one time we did, this is one of my favorite eras of her, was her Ray of Light era. And we were doing an Oprah show, and we were rehearsing in her apartment in Central Park West in New York. And I was at her piano, and the band was just sitting around, and we were just playing it. And I was like, we've never done anything like this live. We should do this live. And she says, what do you mean? I was like, I should play piano, guitar, Tommy should play guitar, Omar's going to play bass. He plays drums, but he was playing bass on this particular thing. I was like, we should do this like this on Oprah. She's like, really? I was like, yeah. And we did. It was a song called Little Star for her daughter on Oprah. So those, like, organically, she trusted me.
Sure.
And then, that was a little stretch for her, but we had her foundationally, and, she always has the courage to just go and do something. So that's how these things just kind of come up. The through line is just, I like to do something that's different.
Yeah.
With each other, but how we going to touch
I'm
the
starting
audience.
to think that my through line, I grew up, my father's musical love was really a big influence on me, and he, B.B. King and Stevie Wonder and Eric Clapton and Jethro Tull, but then on the other side, his first albums and performances that he had me watch were Michael Jackson, Prince, Madonna. These are my first tapes, the first tapes I ever had. I went to a cassette store and I bought these tapes, and who was it? Jennifer Lopez.
Oh, wow.
When she first came out, I mean, that was a little bit later on. Obviously, she didn't start her music till later on. So I'm starting to think that my father was just a Michael Bearden fan, and he just didn't know
funny.
it.
I worked with all those artists.
I want to ask though, Michael, of all the different stories that you created on all the various stages, I mean, we could talk for hours. You have worked as a Goodwill Ambassador for United Nations. I know you've done a bunch of charity shows. You've done a bunch of award shows. Do you have one storytelling moment that you created that just stands out? Like one where you're just like, man, when you walked off that stage, you were just like, that was like legacy. And I know that's so hard because you've worked with Michael and Madonna and Whitney, and I've been to those and J-Lo, and I've been to those performances. And I know when I left, I was like, that was a legacy. So for you though, is there one that specifically that just stays with you as a story you gifted the world?
That is such a tough question for me because there's so many. Like I did a whole Ray Charles tribute at the Grand Ole Opry with all country artists.
Why that story?
Why that story? Well, that story for me, Well, that's just one. I wouldn't even say that's the most. But for me, because I also worked with Ray Charles, and it was during his country thing when he did, his music. And I'm forgetting the name of the albums, the country albums that he did.
We'll find it.
Yeah, they just took off when he did them, and there was such a racial thing towards it. And we won't get into the history of what was created by Black people in this country, all the music, but to me, music is just music. Even when I was growing up, it didn't matter. Like, as I listened to everything that you listen to, you said Chuck Tall, Led Zeppelin, Creedence Clearwater Revival, all these people, then James Brown, Jackson 5, Earth, Wind & Fire.
My father raised me on blues, rock and roll,
blues,
and NPR.
That's great. That's a great combination. And so for me, just to be able to go into the Grand Ole Opry and to play Ray's music and to execute it with all the stars of the day.
I want to talk a little bit about working on This Is It with Michael Jackson.
The first time I worked with Michael was actually on his 30th anniversary concert at Madison Square Garden, right before 9/11 happened, right before you wanted to move to New York.
Yeah.
And so I worked with Michael, his brothers, and everybody else on the show. Including, Luther Vandross, Whitney, Liza Minnelli, all these people were on there. Then I started working with Liza on the side too, as her pianist for a little while.
How do you have enough time to work with all these people, Michael?
This is all I do.
And still answer my phone calls.
Yeah, that was a great experience as well. We can't get into it's over 500 hours, so we will be here all day. And so fast forward to This Is It in 2009. I had just gotten off the road doing some things with this artist, Boz Scaggs. And then I got a call that Michael was looking for new music directors. So I know his other music directors, so I didn't know what was happening. But so I went in through the process and they chose me. And then I started working with MJ. And right away, it's funny because when I was doing the interview, I had them put a keyboard in the room.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then Michael came in and he's just walking, and I was playing some things, and he just started singing. So like it was me, him, and Kenny, the director, Kenny Ortega. And it was like for a half hour, it was me and Michael just doing a concert. I would just play things for him, and
I would have paid to be at that concert.
Oh, it was great. So it was. Like I would play all of his.
When you touch the keys, I hear story. Just FYI.
Wow,
like I just
you.
Right away in there.
Thank you. So Michael would just start singing. That's a song called "Can't Help It." And so we just did that for a while, and then I just started working with him. And I immediately went back to the little boy. Some days I would just see myself just like staring at him because everything he did was cool to me. It was just like he walked on a beat, like everything was like, "Hey, Michael." He was just Michael Jackson. It was just so amazing to be in the room.
Sure.
So it was, it was a great experience. Of course, it ended up sadly, and we all know what happened. So I never like to belabor that part of it. I just always like to stay in the
joy.
The joy of having worked with somebody that amazing. You talk about energy. Like I would be in my office sometimes, and even without seeing him, I would sit up like, "Oh, Michael's here," and then I'm like,
you could feel it.
I could feel him.
Yeah, some people are like that.
Yeah, I could feel him. And 5 minutes later, they would come. "Oh, Mr. Bearden, Mr. Jackson would like to see you." Like he was just an amazing human being.
Okay, this is a segment of our show that we do rapid fire questions about the character that is Michael Bearden. So, first thing that comes to your mind, I want you to respond.
Uh-oh.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, Michael.
I trust you, Adhrucia.
Okay. When I say the word home, what do you think of?
Well, obviously, I think of Chicago. But the thing that gives me the most comfort in life, which is my lightest blanket to the world, is
The keys.
the keyboard. If I have that in front of me, or if I have an orchestra, like I conduct as well, and so if I have a baton in my hand and I'm in front of musicians and they're looking back at me, that
The
feels
lioness blanket. I love that
yes,
reference.
yes.
Hey,
That
Snoopy.
yeah.
When
Yes.
I say the word heaven, what do you think of?
Music,
How about the word hell?
man.
What food do you find most comforting?
Well, I'm vegan, so wow. What is a comfort food for me? That's hard to answer.
Yeah. This is like our character study of you.
Wow. I've never thought of a comfort food. Oh, I would say this. Indian food.
Indian food. Oh, we're going to get Indian food. What makes you smile?
Nature.
What do you define love as?
Love to me is not relying upon someone else for your happiness.
How do you define success?
Success is doing what you love.
How do you define failure?
Failure? Failure to me is growth.
Failure is growth?
Failure is growth.
Oh, it is growth.
Failure is growth.
Yes, understood. It's a positive.
It's a positive.
Michael, do you believe in magic?
Yes.
That's why you're my people.
Yes.
Second chances?
That depends. That depends, because maybe if you're going for a second chance, maybe you didn't learn the lesson from the first chance.
Yeah, he's got a point. Love at first sight.
Wow. Sure.
Sure. Without considering time, ability, or money as an obstacle, what is the one thing besides what you do that you've always wanted to do or learn?
You know what? So I hang out with more comics and comedians than I do musicians, probably.
Really?
And the fact to watch them get on stage and do what they do, that always intrigued me.
It's the Michael Bearden Comedy Hour.
That always, I would never do it. Don't try to get me up. But that always intrigued. I enjoy the process. I like to watch them work out the jokes, like all the things.
Don't worry, this isn't punked. We're not gonna. Who would you like to create? Who or what would you like to create a story for in the future?
Barbra Streisand.
Barbra Streisand? Wow. Can I do that with you? I mean, yes.
Yes. Barbra Streisand.
Yes. Funny girl all day long. What word best describes you as a storyteller?
Authentic.
What inspires or drives you?
Life.
And last but not least, Michael Bearden, what is your favorite story?
My favorite story. Ooh. Adhrucia, you're putting me on the spot now.
Yeah, just first thing that comes to mind. We're not taking notes here.
Wow, I can't. I think my favorite story, just narrative,
Yeah.
is that people discover what their purpose is and then they follow it. I love when people figure it out.
Yeah.
When they have this burning desire inside and society's telling them, no, you can't do that, or don't do it this way, or try it this way, or whatever. And then they just put on their blinders and they just go and bore straight ahead and do it. I think that's always my favorite. Not even just in our business, just, if they want to be a tennis player, or, some sports or academic, or, playwright, or whatever it is, and they discover it even later in life. I think that's my favorite narrative, is to just figure out what your purpose is and just do it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us, Michael. Love you.
Thank you so much for having me, Adhrucia.